We are live and we are so back. Welcome back to the Couch Warrior podcast. As always, I'm your host, Mike, and we have been on quite a break. We had a month off from UFC. I don't say MMA because there were regionals and I did bet on them and I did lose money on them. So we did still have MMA up until a couple of weeks ago. So it is good to be back, though. It's good to have the UFC back. Definitely missed it. In terms of, like the quality of the card, I actually kind of like this card. I know a lot of people are talking smack about it, but there's a lot of Dana White's Contender Series guys, fighters. There's a lot of guys who I want to see compete again. And I think low-key with the matchups, it's actually pretty fun. I think there's going to be some fun matchups, some violent matchups. And overall, I expect a pretty good card. There's a few matchups that are probably going to be stinkers. Like this first one's probably going to be a little bit boring for most people. I like grappling. I don't get too bored from it, but still probably going to be on the tamer side. But overall, I think it's a good card. I'm excited to talk about it. From a betting perspective, I don't love it. I don't have many plays, and I'm probably not going to have many plays. It's a parlay kind of card for me, and I've been trying to stay off from parlays for the most part, but when they make sense, at least for me. And in this card, I think it's kind of a parlay card. There's not really any spots where I want to go play money lines, a lot of kind of wide lines, but spots where I think guys are still going to pull through. So we'll talk about it all. There's 14 fights on the card, a few short notice replacements. And yeah, let's get right into it. So real quick, though, real fight picks. Thank you for tuning in and thanks for the compliments. Much appreciated. So first fight of the night, we have Joe Solecki versus Nurullo Aliev. Solecki 13-5-0. He's 31 years old, going to be 5'9" with a 70.5-inch reach. Aliev 9-0, undefeated. He's going to be 24. So he's, what is that? 7 years younger. He's going to be 1 inch taller, and he's going to have a 1.5-inch reach advantage. So I like Aliev. He's minus 600 now. The line really came in heavy. He was originally supposed to fight Yanal Ashmuz. I had a parlay with him and Tulio that I put 4 units on, and then the Ashmuz fight gets canceled. And now I have 4 units on Tulio, which we'll talk about later that I'm probably going to hedge off of. But now he's fighting Solecki, and my gut reaction was that this is a tougher matchup just because Solecki's been around longer. He's a good grappler in his own right, and he's fought better competition. But once I kind of dove into the tape and thought about it a lot, I feel like this is actually an easier matchup than Ashmuz because Ashmuz, his takedown defense is pretty poor, so I expected Aliev to kind of just get the takedowns and go. But if they got stuck on the feet, Aliev isn't the best striker, and Ashmuz has some power, so he's probably a little bit more dangerous. A guy like Solecki, though, on the feet, he's got pretty much nothing. He's not knocking anybody out. He's not really hurting anybody at all. His striking is, I guess it's better than Aliev's just because he has more, because Aliev just has a jab, and that's really it. You don't see too much more. Sometimes he'll follow it up, but for the most part, he's kind of just got a jab. So I'll say that Solecki is maybe a better technical striker, but overall, as a striker, he doesn't have much. So he's not much of a threat. And that's good, right? Because if Aliev can't get the takedowns for whatever reason, we don't have to sweat about him getting outstruck or him getting knocked out because it's probably not going to happen. And then in terms of the grappling, I'm a little bit concerned because Aliev does get stuck in guillotines like all the time, and he hasn't been submitted by them, but he's been in some pretty tight ones, and he's tough and he fights out of it. But that's not always going to work. Sometimes eventually you're going to get caught in something that you can't fight out of, and you need to work on that part of your game so you don't keep getting stuck in that position. He doesn't seem to be working on it. He kind of just depends on his toughness. So I'm worried about the guillotines because Solecki's got a good guillotine. Solecki's a really good jiu-jitsu practitioner. He's a really good grappler. And his takedown defense is poor, and he's happy to play off of his back. That's why I like Aliev here a lot, and because of what I said about him not being much of a striking threat. But all that said, I am a little bit worried that Aliev might get caught in a ghillie or maybe in like a triangle because he does kind of just stick his neck and his head out there. He's not super defensively sound on the ground when it comes to jiu-jitsu. He's good at fighting out of it, but he's not good at preventing like himself getting into it. That's the issue with him. But overall, he's much more physical. He's stronger. He's got the better cardio, in my opinion. Seems more durable. And I just think he's going to get the takedowns. I think he's probably going to stay safe. I think he's going to get the control time and just win the fight. I think it's going to be relatively boring, where there's a few exciting moments where it seems like Solecki might maybe submit him, but he fights out of it, and then he wins the fight. I think it's possible he can also hurt Solecki on the feet. Aliev's like he's lacking on the feet, especially in the UFC. But if you go back on his tape a little bit, he's a decent striker when he puts it together. But he's still working on it. It's a work in progress. But he is also only 24 years old. He's at Kill Cliff, a great gym. He's training with Esteban Ribovic. It's a great training partner. And I do expect his hands to come along. I expect him to become a better and better striker. Whereas with Solecki, I don't really expect any changes in the striking. So, yeah, long story short, I like the minus 600 favorite. Surprise, surprise. I put him in a few parlays, and 2 of them when he was minus 450. I mean, it's not like percentage-wise, minus 600 isn't a huge difference, but at this point, it's getting kind of but I do think he should be fine here. Like outside of getting caught in a sub, which I think maybe happens like 2 out of 10 times, I think he should be okay. So, yeah, I like Aliev. Let's move on. Next up, we've got Victoria Dudakova versus Fatima Kline. Dudakova 8-1-0, 25 years old, 5'5" with the 67-inch reach. Kline 6-1-0, 24. She's 1 year younger, going to be 1 inch taller, and she's going to have the same reach. So, first off, I didn't tape this one really. I was focusing on other fights that weren't a minus 900 favorite and where I was actually interested in the underdog. Whereas here, I've always liked Dudakova. I've maybe overrated her in the past. Against Sam Hughes, I thought she would cook, and she did not cook. Definitely did not. That was a meh performance. But overall, I've always been high on her. She's very young. She's very tough. On her Contender Series bout, she pulled through against a really tough opponent. I believe it was her that was injured. I always mix her up with who's the other one? There's another woman who's very similar style. I believe the same weight class, but I always blank on her name. I mix them up all the time, but I'm pretty sure it was Dudakova. And she got hurt in that fight, and she still was able to get the takedowns, pulled through, got the win. And her opponent, she's over there in the KSW killing it now. I think she's like 13-1 with that only loss being to Dudakova. She's a good fighter, and she's young. She's improving still, but this is a tough matchup for her. I'm also very high on Kline. I've been high on Kline. I bet her against Jasmine Jasovicius, which was a bad bet, but she's a prospect who's really been working on her striking. She comes from a grappling background similar to Dudakova, but her jiu-jitsu is definitely better than Dudakova's. Who's a better pure wrestler? I don't really know. They're both good wrestlers in my eyes. Maybe Kline by a little bit, but Kline can be taken down too, and I would not be shocked if Dudakova got a takedown or 2 of them. I think it's entirely possible that she gets her wrestling going too, but Kline, I lean towards her being the better grappler. I think that Kline is the better striker. Her striking is still a work in progress, but I definitely think that as of right now, she's the better striker. Nice, clean, crisp down the pipe, pretty fast hands, has a little bit of a pop to her punch, good combinations. So I do favor her over Dudakova here. Minus 900, no, I don't agree with that whatsoever. Definitely not putting her in any parlays at minus 900, but I don't really want to play Dudakova either because I think more often than not, Kline will win this fight. I'm going to have to tape it a little bit more in depth. I really didn't go into it too far because, like I said, minus 900 favorite, and I'm not super excited about the underdog. So we'll see what happens. Maybe I'll end up on something. Probably not. I thought about parlaying the over, and I might still do it because minus 240 at women's strawweight, you don't really see that line often for the over 2.5. It's usually something ridiculous, like minus 400 because they don't want you to bet on it. But I get a little bit concerned because, like, what if Kline catches her in mount and is able to, like, ground and pound or something? I don't know. I lean towards Kline decision. I think that's probably what's going to happen. I think the over 2.5 is probably a solid play for a parlay piece, but I have to go and look at it more in depth. Moving on, though. Next up, we've got Magomed Gadzhiyasulov versus Bruno Lopes. Gadzhiyasulov, 9-0, going to call him Gadzi, 31 years old, 6'2" with the 75-inch reach, training out of KHK. That's Makayev's camp. Bruno Lopes, 13-1-0. He's 31 as well. He's going to be 6'2" as well. And he's going to be at a 1-inch reach disadvantage with a 74-inch reach. I'm not positive where he trains. It says China team on Tapology. I couldn't really tell based off of his Instagram. So this is an interesting one. I came into it kind of thinking, like, pre-tape, I was thinking Bruno is probably going to be a solid underdog. You know, he was like plus 150 at the time. Now he's like plus 180, but at the time he was like plus 150. So pre-tape, I was thinking, okay, maybe Bruno's going to be the spot. He's a good fighter. He's underrated a little bit because of his performance against Brenson Ribeiro on the Contender Series. And then I taped it, and I ended up parlaying Gadzi. I put him in a parlay with Aliev, minus 129, 1.3 units to win just over 1. And it really came down to this for me. Came down to a few things. First off, I think Gadzi's going to get the takedowns. That's long story short. Like, that's the most important thing in this fight. Gadzi's primarily a wrestler. He's a fantastic wrestler. And Can he get the takedowns? Can he get his win condition for the most part? Because he's a decent striker, but he's not the best. And I do think he's going to get the takedowns. Bruno Lopes not getting taken down a ton, but from what I've seen, I don't think his takedown defense is that great. And I haven't really seen him do it, but my gut's kind of telling me that he's going to play off of his back when he is on his back. He's a good submission grappler, and I could see him just trying to get something off of his back and getting stuck there. So that's the first reason I like Gadzhi. Second reason, the chin of Lopes. I think it's rough. I don't love the chin. He got hurt. I mean, he got knocked out by Ribeiro on the Contender Series, which isn't terrible, you know. I'm not going to say he sucks because of that. Ribeiro's a decent fighter, and he hits really hard, and he caught Lopes, and it happens in MMA. But Lopes, he's a bit chinny. He also got hurt by the Georgian guy on the Contender Series who, I'm sorry, isn't very good, and he's just throwing haymakers, and he was landing them at first until he gassed out and Bruno took over and finished him instead. But he got hurt in that fight, Bruno, and I'm pretty sure he got hurt on his LFA fight against Brigagao. I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. Sorry if I butchered it. But overall, like I said, the chin's a problem. And on top of the chin being a problem, the defense is also a problem. And it might be why the chin's bad, because he's getting hit all the time, because his chin is up in the air and he stands very straight. So that's a concern as well. And then also, I mean, I don't really have concrete evidence because Lopes hasn't really been to a decision in a long time. I think he's only done it a few times. He's a finisher or he gets finished. But I kind of feel like Gadzhi's going to have better cardio. I don't know why. Just looking at the styles, I feel like Bruno's going to slow down. And Gadzhi seems to have really good cardio to me. And, you know, on the feet, I do like Lopes better. I think Lopes is a better striker. I think he's a crisper striker and maybe has a little bit more power. I like his striking quite a bit. But Gadzhi's a decent striker too. You know, he's not as developed. He's not as clean, but he can put it together. He's got solid combinations, especially when he's fresh early in the first, early in the second. He's a pretty good striker, and I think he can be competitive. What I worry about the most with Gadzhi is when he gets backed up. I think he struggles a bit on the back foot, and Bruno is a guy who could put him on the back foot. He could pressure, but it's going to be a little bit hard if Gadzhi keeps shooting. You know, every time Bruno Lopes, if he's pressuring forward, if Gadzhi just changes levels, goes for the takedown, he's probably going to get it. So for me, if you put that all together, getting the takedowns, better chin, better defense, and my assumption is better cardio, I can get behind minus 220, whatever it is, minus 222. So I put him in a parlay. Not my most confident play ever, but I'm pretty comfortable with it. I'm not super stressed. I think he should be able to pull it off. If he gets caught in something, he gets caught in something. But I think overall, he should win the fight. Moving on. Next up, we've got Ernesta. How do they pronounce it? Ernesta Kareckaite. I'm going to call her Ernesta versus Nicolle Caliari. Ernesta is 5'1" 26 years old, 5'9" with a 71-inch reach. I promise I practiced. It just didn't stick. Caliari, 8-2-0. She's going to be 28 years old, so she's 2 years older, going to be 6 inches shorter, and she's going to be at a 9-inch reach disadvantage. So Ernesta, she's another parlay I have with Aliev. That's it. The last parlay with Aliev and my last parlay probably for the card, but for now at least. And here's how I see it. So I'm not insanely high on Ernesta right now. I think that she's still incredibly, incredibly green. And I do have a concern that she might follow Caliari to the ground. And watching her against Barbosa. Now, Barbosa's a better grappler than Caliari. Very credentialed grappler, judo, jiu-jitsu. And the thing is, like, I forgot what round it was, but Ernesta ends up on top, right? And she just leans over the wrong way and then gets her freaking back taken. And it was like, damn, you were in control, put yourself in a terrible position, and you got lucky to fight out of it. That said, I do want to say I was on Barbosa there pretty heavy, if I remember myself correctly. And like off memory, I remembered Barbosa winning the fight. When I ran the tape, though, I think Ernesta won 2 and 3. So I think she should have won that fight, which is pretty impressive to me. Barbosa, in my opinion, is a good fighter. And Caliari, she seems all right. One of the issues is there's not a ton of tape on her. There's only a few fights. But she seems all right. You know, she's definitely physical, very jacked, seems to have a little bit of power. Striking seems okay. But the issue with her striking is she struggles at range because she's got such a short reach that she can't really put together combinations at range. She has to be in the pocket. When she's in the pocket, yeah, she's dangerous. She can put together some hands and she's pretty fast. But at range, she'll struggle. And oh yeah, and then I was saying good things about her though before I get started with Ernesta side. Is Caliari is a very opportunistic submission grappler. She can throw things up very quickly. The sub she got on the Contender Series was very, very fast. That was nice, even though her competition wasn't super high level. And yeah, like she seems like a solid fighter, maybe a big green. She can use some more development, but I think she's going to struggle a little bit against taller opponents. And here against Ernesta, on the feet, I think it's a blowout. I don't think it's even close on the feet. I think Ernesta's striking is going to be much better. I think she hits harder, even though she's not really getting knockouts. She does seem to have pretty heavy hands. And at range, like 9-inch reach advantage, if she just keeps her at range, Caliari won't even be able to reach her. She just won't. So if Ernesta just uses a little bit of movement, and sometimes she'll, instead of like laterally moving, she'll just go straight forward, which is great. It's exciting, but not really what I want her to do here against Caliari, who's got some hands in the pocket, but not at range. If Ernesta keeps her at range, like it should be her all day. She'll just be landing at and Caliari won't be able to do anything about it. And I think Ernesta also, she mixes in the kicks into the combos really nicely. She'll just be striking with the hands, and then boom, the kick comes upstairs. So I give the striking to Ernesta easy. Her takedown defense is very, very good, especially for somebody so green. I do think her defense is great. Good use of the underhooks, could do it a little bit better, could fight the hands a little better, but the hips are good, the sprawl is good, and Caliari is not some elite wrestler. So overall, I don't really see Caliari taking her down. I don't really see Caliari being able to strike with her. And I think her only real win condition here is Ernesta making a bad mistake and getting submitted. And that's entirely possible. Women's MMA, first of all. Second of all, Ernesta's super green and makes mistakes. So it's a possibility. But for one parlay, I thought it was fine because as long as she avoids that mistake, I think she should cook here. So I like Ernesta, and we can move on. Next up, we've got Preston Parsons versus Jacobe Smith. So this was originally supposed to be who is Parsons originally supposed to fight? I'm blanking now. Oh, it was going to be Andreas Gustafsson. So for the original fight, I kind of felt like, did I introduce them yet? Let me introduce them. We got Preston Parsons versus Jacobe Smith. Preston Parsons 11-5-0, 29 years old, 5'11" with a 71-inch reach. Jacobe Smith 9-0 undefeated. He's 28, so he's going to be 1 year younger. Not really. He's like 6 months younger. He's going to be 1 inch shorter, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. So Smith making his debut. He was on the Contender Series against Christian Savoy, a Canadian fella. Absolutely cooked him, and he's making his debut now. I think he's still a little bit green, but he's an absolute menace. And Parsons, like I mentioned earlier, was supposed to fight Andreas Gustafsson. I was kind of interested in Parsons there because I don't really rate Gustafsson that high. He's an exciting fighter, but in terms of skill levels, I'm not quite there yet with him. But in this matchup, you know, I'll start with this. I have no interest in the underdog. And you guys know me. Usually, if you throw a bunch of plus 400s, plus 300s at me, I'm probably going to end up on a few. And so far, I'm not on any on this card, and there's quite a few of them. And Parsons isn't one of the ones that I'll end up on. I think he's a fine fighter. I don't think he's as bad as people make him out to be. It's funny because so many people were on him against Ogden, and then he loses, and now he's the worst thing to ever happen to MMA. He sucks. I don't think so. I think he's a good fighter. I think he's a solid mixed martial artist. He's got some work to do, but he's still young. He's 29. But for this particular matchup, I think Smith should kind of run through him. Smith is better everywhere. I don't really see where Parsons beats him. Maybe pure jiu-jitsu because Smith doesn't really do jiu-jitsu at all. Like, he doesn't use his he uses his grappling, obviously. He's a tremendous wrestler. But he doesn't really go for subs. He had the back of Savoy for a second there, but didn't really do anything with it. Didn't try to go for a rear naked. He'd rather do ground and pound. So in terms of just straight BJJ, I guess Parsons is better. And he's good at jiu-jitsu. He's a good grappler, and he's a good wrestler in his own right. But Jacobe's going to be a much better wrestler, much more physical, much stronger, much more powerful. And I think he's a better striker, too. His striking's not bad. He's green. He's still developing, but Parsons isn't a great striker either. He's pretty hittable, and he can get hurt. Like, he got hurt by, what's his face? D-Rod. D-Rod hurt him. early. That was like a first round knockout. And D-Rod's really good, and he's got power too. But Smith is like a different beast. I think Smith is going to be something. I think he's an incredible prospect, someone to look out for. And I think more likely than not, at some point he catches a chin of Parsons and is able to put him away. But I can also see a decision, honestly. And I'm kind of considering the Smith by decision prop. I'm trying to be careful on props this year. If you guys watch my 2024 recap, you know that I'm kind of try to wean off the props a little, because I feel like sometimes they're just a drain on the bankroll. But here, I feel like the fight goes or Smith by decision might have some value. What is the fight goes? Let me check. Fight goes is plus 160. Smith decisions plus 235. Like, I might put like a half unit on one of those, just because Smith has gone to a decision before. I think 2 times or 3 times out of his 8 fights. And it's because he's a wrestler primarily. You know, he has power and he's very dangerous standing, but he's primarily a wrestler. That's where he's most comfortable. And the ground and pound is very good. He's a very aggressive with it, very dangerous with the ground and pound. But in some fights, it doesn't always lead to finishes. I mean, against Parsons, I don't know if I'd call Parsons chinny. Doesn't take shots the best, and he doesn't have the best defense. So yeah, Smith could hurt him. But if we're primarily on the ground, I feel like the ground and pound probably isn't going to finish Parsons like it did Savoy. So I kind of like Smith by decision as a sneaky play. Maybe like I'd be curious what the Smith round 3 decision prop looks like. That could be something. Cover yourself in case he gets that the late finish, because he does hit really hard. And if he's beating on Parsons for 10 full minutes, maybe the finish does come in the third. So maybe something like that. I don't hate Smith as a parlay piece either. I'm like not running to the window to do it because he's just so green still, and he's making his debut, and mistakes happen. So I'm a little worried about that. But overall, long story short, I think Smith should beat Parsons. I think he can knock him out, or I think he can win a decision here. And we can move on real quick, though. We got Champ Bets in the house. What's up, Champ Bets? Thank you for tuning in, and Happy New Year's to you as well. And my guy Dan from Half the Battle saying smash the like button. Make sure you guys are listening to Dan. Smash that like button. And then if you don't already, you probably do watch your show, but make sure you are watching Dan's show. He's the man, really sharp individual. And he's doing a new late night MMA news show. I forgot exactly what he's calling it, but definitely check it out. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, Dan. And Champ saying he likes the fight goes the distance look. Yeah, I think it's a solid way to play the fight if you want to have a play on it. Next up, we've got Thiago Moises versus Trey Ogden. Moises, he's going to be 18-8-0, 29 years old. He's 5'9" with a 70-inch reach. Ogden, 18-6-0. He's 35, so he's going to be 6 years older, going to be 2 inches taller, and he's going to have a 2-inch reach advantage. So I want to start with, I did not realize Moises is only 29 years old. For some reason, like, I guess because he's been in the UFC for a while, and I've just been watching him for a minute now, I felt like he's probably like 34, 33, maybe 32, but he's only 29. And that's pretty good. You know, he's still going to be improving at this age. He's at a great camp at American Top Team. He spent some time at Fight Nerds for the Ludovic Kline fight. I think his wife wanted to move back to Brazil or something like that. But overall, he's at American Top Team for this camp. I think he was at American Top Team. And I just like either camp, like Fight Nerds or American Top Team. I like it better than Marathon. Marathon's a good gym. Ogden's a coach. He's done a great job with the guys who are there. Garrett Armfield's one of them. Done a great job. But I don't really expect a ton of improvements coming from Ogden at 35 years old. He has improved. I'll give him that. Since he got to the UFC, like when he first got here, he was kind of like grappling or bust. And then he was kind of just a leg kick merchant on the feet. And he's kind of developed the game a little bit more. You know, his jab is solid. When he follows it up with the 1-2, it's nice. The combinations are okay, but still kind of lacking. The striking's definitely developed, but it's still not quite there. And he's pretty hittable if you can just back him up, because his movement's good. The lateral movement's good. But if you can cut the cage and back him up, you can land some nice shots on him. And Moises, I don't think Moises is the best striker. His output is pretty poor, which I'm not a huge fan of. And at range, you know, he's going to have the shorter reach, and Ogden is good at using his length and fighting at range and keeping guys further away where they can't reach him. So Moises can struggle a bit there at range, but in boxing range, when he's a little bit closer, then I think he's the better striker overall. I think he's going to have more power out of the two of them. He's more likely to get a knockout even though I don't think he is going to knock out Ogden, who I think is relatively durable. I do think he can hurt Ogden. I think his leg kicks are better than Ogden's. Both of them use them pretty often, but Moises seemed to have more substance to it, more likely to actually cause an injury. He cooked Mitch Ramirez's leg. I know that Mitch Ramirez isn't the highest level fighter right now, but still very impressive the way he did that with pretty much just leg kicks and a little bit of hands. And yeah, so on the feet, I favor Moises as long as he can close the range. But if he can't, I think he might struggle a bit with Ogden using his jab, leg kicks. But yeah, and then the grappling is where this gets kind of tricky for me. Ogden's got this 100% takedown defense on UFC stats. That's a complete nothing, because the only fighter in his 6 UFC fights who shot on him was Jordan Levitt in his UFC debut. That was it. No one else has shot on him, not Yowick, nobody. Nobody's shooting on him. And that's why he has that 100% takedown defense on UFC stats, because he stuffed 3 takedowns from Levitt. So you can't really take a ton from that. And it's important to me because I don't think Moises stands out enough on the feet to warrant minus 180. So if I'm going to get there, or if I'm going to get at a similar price, I need to know that he can at least get takedowns here. And at least UFC wise, there's not a ton of tape on it. I also wanted to see what Ogden's like off of his back. And that we do have some of that. Like in the Yowick fight in round 3, I think he went for a guillotine. He either went for a guillotine or he slipped. That's usually the story with him in the UFC, because he has ended up on his back a few times. Against Yowick, against Levitt, it happened twice. Against Levitt, the first time was a slip. The second time was a sprawl from Levitt, and then he ended up on top. And both times Ogden got stuck. So that, for me, that lends itself to the Moises side, because if Moises can get those takedowns, and he's got incredible timing on the wrestling, sometimes even though he times it well, he still can't finish, which is a little concerning, but he does have good timing and he is a good wrestler. And if he can get on top, from what I've seen, it seems like Ogden gets stuck, because he got stuck against Levitt. He got stuck against Yowick in the 3rd round also. He pulled Gilly. I think that's what it was. And he got stuck. Part of me was thinking like, all right, maybe he just got stuck because he didn't have much urgency, because he felt like he was up in that fight. He was probably up 2-zip. So maybe he just didn't feel like he really needed to fight super hard to get up. And maybe he didn't want to go back up on the feet, because when they were standing, Yowick was landing nice shots. So maybe I was thinking maybe that's why. But then when I watched the Levitt fight, because I watched it afterwards, I was like, well, it happened in the Levitt fight in round 1 and round 3, I think it was. So that starts to make me feel like, yeah, maybe he can get stuck on his back. And then to really see him get taken down, you have to go way back to like Nick Brown in 2019. And Brown, so he took him down the first time also because Ogden pulled Gilly. Then Ogden worked back up, but then he just dragged Ogden down, took his back, and subbed him in the first round. Now, that was 2019. So we're talking, what, almost 6 years ago, which is like, it's been a long time, and Ogden's definitely gotten better. But at the same time, he was 29. He was in his prime at the time, and now he's 35, probably a little past the prime. So probably improved, but I don't know how much. So at the end of the day, I think that Moises is the side. He's the younger guy. He's at a better camp. He's a better striker, in my opinion. He hits harder. And I think that he's the more dangerous guy in the grappling. I think he's the much more likely guy to get a submission. I think he can take the back. I think he can sub Ogden with a rear naked. I think that's a possibility. So for me, I was originally maybe a little bit interested in Ogden, but now it's favored or pass for me. It's Moises or pass. And if the line goes down a bit more, I could see myself getting behind him, because I don't love him at chalk usually, because he fights a little bit close. But I do see a clear path for him if he can just get those takedowns, because Ogden to me seems like he gets stuck and he's not great at scrambling back out. Let's see what my guy Champ Betts is saying. I think this is a good buy low spot on Moises. I worry because Ogden does fight with good fight IQ, but yeah, I tend to agree. Like, I actually wrote that in my breakdown also, that Ogden is a very intelligent fighter. He does do a good job at game planning. That's probably why he's a great coach. He's very good at analyzing things, and he seems to be able to implement it for himself in his own game plans. So it's a little bit of a worry knowing Moises fights close, but overall, for all the reasons I just said, I do like Moises to win. I think he's an okay play at chalk, but I'd like something better than minus 180. And let me check what his submission prop is, because I didn't even bother looking, honestly. Open plus 700. I wish I got in on that. I've been trying not to hit openers, really. I'll hit them sometimes, but like I won't track it. This time I just didn't touch it because I was like, okay, limits are probably shit. Can't track it anyways, so let me wait on it. Wasn't super excited about it. Didn't really think pre-tape that he would sub Ogden. Only post-tape is now when I'm thinking, okay, yeah, I think he can actually submit him. So now I'm interested, but now it's plus 450, which I still don't think is terrible, but not something I'm really running to do. I mean, Ogden's been sub 3 times. One of them was the Nick Brown fight I told you guys about, and the other two were with Gifford, both times a guillotine. I think both times in the first round. It was pretty stupid, but that was a long time ago. But all right, we can move on. All right. Next up, we've got Marco Tulio versus Ihor Potieria. Tulio, 12-1-0, 30 years old, 6 feet tall with a 74-inch reach. Potieria, 21-7-0. He's 28, so he's 2 years younger, going to be 3 inches taller, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. So, like I mentioned earlier in the video, I did parlay Tulio originally with Aliev when Aliev was supposed to fight Ashmuz. That fight fell through. And now I have 4 units on Tulio at minus 450 to win less than 1 unit. And I'm just like, well, that's unfortunate. So now I kind of want to hedge off, honestly, because like I think Tulio is really good. I think he's a great prospect. And as much as I love my fellow Ukrainian brother Ihor, like, and he's better than people give him credit for, better than people give him credit. And he is improving. But he's not quite there yet. And I do think Tulio's better. I think Tulio's probably better everywhere. He's a cleaner striker. I was about to say he has more power, but low-key Ihor hits really hard too. So maybe I won't give that to Tulio. But Tulio's a cleaner striker. His defense is definitely better. He's from shoot box, but unlike them, he actually raises his guard and actually tries to defend his head. So that's good to see. And I think his grappling is better than Igor's too. I think the jiu-jitsu is going to be better than Igor's. And I think he will be able to get takedowns against Ihor if he wants them. So I do like Tulio to win. But the more I think about it, like, I don't want 4 units on him anymore. Especially, like, it was one thing when it was to win, like, over 2 units because I had him with Aliev. It came out to, like, minus 140, 189. So I put 4 units on it to win 2 point something. Now, like, do I want 4 units on him to win less than 1? Not really. Not really. I don't. So I'm probably going to hedge out, I think, because I think he should beat Ihor. I think that I honestly don't think he's going to finish him. I think this fight, low-key, is going to go to a decision. Might be a hot take, but I think Igor is a lot more durable than people make him out to be. And I thought maybe the fight with Caesar would kind of wake some people up, but it seems like people are really holding him. Forgot the phrase, but people are kind of holding it against him that he got knocked out so many times at light heavyweight. Now he's down to middleweight. Seems like the chin's holding up against these guys. So I low-key think we might make it to a decision. And I feel like if you ask me, how does Tulio win? My gut reaction is decision. So if I think it's going to a decision, and I'm not really feeling the bet that much because I think Ihor low-key is improving and Tulio could fight a little bit close sometimes, like in the Boguri fight. It's a little bit close. A little closer than it should have been. So I don't want 4 units on Tulio. I'm going to wait right now. I'm hoping that the line will go up a little bit more so I could just hedge off clean. If I have to hedge off and take a loss, it is what it is. I rather take a small, like 0.5 unit loss than taking a 4 unit loss if Tulio blows it and doesn't win. So probably going to hedge off. But I do think Tulio should win. Overall, he's just a better fighter, in my opinion. He's 30, but he's still relatively young. He's improving, and he's already very good. So, yeah, give me Tulio to win. Ihor might be a live dog because he really is improving. And, like, you see certain things, like he's learning new things and implementing them. Like in the Brishek fight, he never did that thing that he was doing where he feinted the takedown and then didn't even, like, go for it, just came back upstairs, kind of like Merab, sort of. Where doesn't even want to get the takedown, he just feints it so he can go upstairs and strike. You don't really see that from Ihor before that. So he's like improving his game. He's learning, he's developing. But overall, I do still think that Tulio should win. But I want to hedge off, and then I could just cheer for my guy Ihor. I do like the over 1.5. I like it quite a bit, but it's taken so much steam. It's minus 129 now. It was plus money not long ago. A few days ago, it was plus money. Now it's not. So I probably won't I don't want to lay the chalk because, like, first off, Ihor hits hard. So I think I wouldn't be too shocked if Ihor just knocked him out. And Tulio is very clean. So I wouldn't be shocked if he did get the finish early. So I lean that it's going to go over. I think it goes over at a pretty high clip for the 1.5, but I don't know how I feel about minus 130, minus 129. I feel like I probably need a little bit better. Fight goes the distance, is plus 350. And I just told you guys, like, I lean towards this going all 15. So I might do that. Maybe I'll put like a little something, like 0.35 to win, like, what is it, 1 point something. Maybe I'll do something like that. But other than that, I'm probably going to hedge off of my Tulio spot, and I'll probably end up with nothing on this fight. Let's see what we got going on in the chat. Champ saying, I hope Ihor wins this fight somehow. Need him more speed, and he's improving, but Tulio is good and he fights smart. Yeah, probably just a past here. And yeah, I really hope Ihor wins. If you guys follow me on Twitter, you know I'm a huge Ihor guy. I've been screaming off the rooftops that he's coming after Dricus. Some people take me serious, which is even funnier than saying it. But yeah, I hope Ihor wins as long as I get my money out of the equation first. If I can't hedge off, then unfortunately, I hope Tulio wins. But moving on, we've got Jose Johnson versus Felipe Bunes. Johnson, 16-9-0, 29 years old. He's 6 foot tall at flyweight with a 71-inch reach. Bunes, 13-7-0. He's 35, so he's going to be 6 years older. And 35 at flyweight, don't love that. He's going to be, let me do math, 3. He's going to be 5 inches shorter, and he's going to have the same reach, though. Rangy guy. Before I break it down real quick, my guy Jewish Better. What's up, brother? Make sure you guys are checking my guy out on Twitter, and he does have a show now of his own. I'll be on it this Thursday, so make sure to check that out. And my guy Mushroom also in the chat. What's up, Mushroom? It's been a minute. So for this fight, so I like Jose a lot in general. I interviewed him, so I'm a little biased. He's a really cool guy, real intelligent dude. He definitely thinks all this through. You know, he really puts a lot into MMA. He's only 29 years old. He's been developing his game. He came in onto the scene as a striker. He got cooked by Ronnie Lawrence on the Contender Series, improved his submission grappling, improved his scrambling by leagues and leagues and miles. He's a great scrambler now. The performance against Jack Cartwright was super impressive. And I remember going up into his fight against his first flyweight fight against Asu. Everyone was saying, this dude's not making weight. This dude's not making weight. And in our interview, I spoke to him about it because he mentioned to me that he's going down to flyweight, and he seemed very confident that he could do it. He said that he could do it, and I believed him, and he did it. He made weight, and he looked pretty good too. Like, yeah, he lost to Asu, but it's also Asu who's about to fight Ursig and possibly get a title shot shortly after. Hope so for the future bets that I have Asu to win the championship by 2025. I have it plus 15,000 I got plus 7,000. So I really hope Asu beats Ursig and gets there, because if he could just get to that shot against Pantoja, I'll happily hedge off. I feel like if Asu beats Ursig like dominantly, we might get like close to pick him against Pantoja, maybe Pantoja like minus 150 or something. And then I could hedge a little bit and make sure I win something at least. Just need him to get there. But back to this fight. Everybody thought he wouldn't make weight, and he did. He's a consummate professional. I think he's going to make weight again. And at first, I thought maybe I would bet him here at chalk, minus 180. I was thinking maybe I will bet him because his striking is great. He's a great striker. He's huge. He uses the range really well. He's constantly throwing up the teep kick over and over and over again to land to the body, to drain that gas tank, but also to maintain the range. And his hands are nice too. He's got good combinations. He's fast, and he's very powerful, especially for flyweight. So I thought maybe I'd get to him. And Bunes at 35 years old at flyweight, don't like that. Gassed really hard against Van. Don't love that, even though Van is a guy who will make you gas because he'll just rip to the body. But because of that, going into the fight, into the tape, I was thinking to myself, okay, maybe Johnson's going to be the first money line that I can actually lay the chalk on for this card. And I taped it, and I think Johnson wins. And I don't really want to bet Bunes, but I do think Bunes is a live dog. So I had to pass, and here's why. Johnson, like I said, his scrambling has improved a lot. if he ends up on his back, he can scramble out. He does a great job at doing it. He's good at threatening submissions. He subbed many people off of his back. Got Mo Miller. That was a big upset. Subbed him. Believe it was a triangle, and he's definitely developed it. But the actual takedown defense hasn't improved that much, in my opinion, and he is still getting taken down pretty easily. Chad Aneliger, who he's a solid fighter, but I don't really rate him super high, especially not in the wrestling department. Chad took him down, 5 times? And he was able to get some control there too. Johnson did a good job getting out, but he got some control. And I can't lay the chalk if I think you're going to get taken down. And I do think he's going to get taken down because Bunes can wrestle. He's a good wrestler. He's times the takedowns well. His control is solid. And he's a good jiu-jitsu guy in his own right. Like, Johnson, at the end of the day, he has been submitted plenty of times. I think it's 3 or 4 times he's been subbed. And even though I think his jiu-jitsu is good and his defense is good, if he's getting taken down a lot, and he is, and he's fighting a guy who is good in the jiu-jitsu department, and Bunes is, then I feel like the Bunes sub is probably on the table. And if not, like, the control time is probably going to be there. And I can't just depend on Johnson reversing position and scrambling out if I'm going to lay minus 180. If I lay minus 180, I got to know that he can keep it on the feet. And I just don't know if he can. And Bunes does slow down. Maybe like some Johnson round 3 sprinkles. That might be something I do. You guys know I like my round 3 sprinkles. And like I said, I am trying to do less props this year, but never said that I'm going to do no round 3 sprinkles. That's part of me. I have to. So I'll probably have a round 3 sprinkle, maybe like a round 3 sub. We'll see, depending on what the lines look like on domestics once it opens up. But outside of the cardio dump that I think can happen, like, Bunes will struggle the most with the cardio if you make him really work to get the takedowns, or if he struggles to control you, right? Against Van, he had to really work to get Van down because Van, I finally have to give him credit. Dude's got good takedown defense. I thought he didn't for a while. I think he does have good takedown defense now. Have to correct myself. And he made Bunes work, and Bunes gassed really hard. But Van was also digging to the body because Van is incredible at going to the body. So that probably also drained the gas tank. But Jose goes to the body all day long. That's all he does is that teep kick up the middle nonstop. So that's the concern with Bunes. That's why I think Johnson will pull it off. And that's why I think the round 3 sprinkle is a good, small sprinkle. It's a good thing to do. Solid thing to do here. But overall, I can't lay the money line because I think there is a path here for Bunes if the cardio holds up. And he has been able to grapple for 3 rounds and win a fight, like Wasker Cruz, older side of things. But he did out-grapple him for 3 rounds. In the 3rd round, that's what I was really looking for, was how's that cardio? And it looked fine to me. He slowed down a little bit, but he looked fine. So I think Bunes is a live dog, but I don't really want to bet him. So, and I do think Jose wins overall. So I'm just going to pass. I think Jose wins. Don't want to lay the chalk because of all the reasons I said, but I don't really want to bet Bunes either. So I'm going to pass. Maybe just have like a Johnson round 3 sprinkle, and that's it. Let's catch up real quick with the chat. There will be blood saying Jose ITD. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely up. It's definitely possible, especially later in the fight, like I mentioned. Let me see what the line looks like. Plus 175. I don't hate it. I feel like if you're going to do that, though, you might as well just go fight doesn't go, or like under 2.5 at plus 110. I think that's decent. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Let's see. MMA anomaly. Any locks or parlays you're liking for this card? Well, you already missed 2 of my parlays and probably my only parlays MMA anomaly. I have Aliev and Kareckaite parlayed to win 1 unit. And I have Aliev and why am I blanking now? And Gadzhiyasulov parlayed as well to win 1 unit. That's it. And if you've ever watched my show before, you know I never call anything a lock because it's MMA and people think things are locks. And then you have Gabriela Fernandez not submitting Wang, blanking on her name, Wang. You have Ming Shi getting the last second head kick knockout. There's no such thing as locks. How could I forget Unessi Dubin and her overhand right against Shannon Clark is a plus 1,000 underdog? There's no such thing as locks. Nunez Koff, nah. Couch? I don't know what you mean. You're going to have to let me know there, buddy. Solid picks for those parlays. Thank you, MMA Anomaly. JB saying, I think Solecki can sneak us up. Brother, listen to my breakdowns, bro. Yeah, I think it's possible, but I think more than likely Aliev is going to be fine. I hate the term lock. That's why I did quotes on it. Yeah, I hate the term lock. I'm also a very, what's the word? I believe in jinx. Superstitious. I'm definitely superstitious. If anybody's like, say I'm on a side, right? Say I bet Jose Johnson. I didn't, but say I did. And then someone will come up to me or like go in a Discord I'm in and they'll be like, Johnson's a lock. Everything inside of me starts screaming, hedge out, hedge out, hedge out. Because I just believe in jinx. If I say somebody's going to win, I'm over here knocking on wood afterwards. Because I feel like if I call something a lock, it's going to lose no matter what. There will be blood saying I like parlaying 2 cards even better. Yeah, I like doing it with regionals sometimes. Had 7 leg parlay, hit 6 legs, and then the final leg was Nunes to beat Pena. I was sad that evening. Oh, heavens. That sucks. I'm pretty sure I was in a similar situation, but not a 7-leg parlay. Judas over Dubin. Dude, I was thinking this to myself, too. I pray to God that the bookies wiki cap that one, because Dubin is 6-0. Judas is 3-2, coming off of a loss. I am praying that they give us Judas a dog odds, because that'll be the spot. I would like that quite a bit. But all right, let us move on. So next up, we've got Punahele Soriano versus Uros Medic. Soriano 10-4-0, 32 years old, 5'11" with a 72.5-inch reach. Medic 10-2-0, he's 31, so he's 1 year younger, going to be 2 inches taller, and he's going to be at a 1-inch reach disadvantage, actually. So I feel like I have a pretty good read on Soriano in general. Like, I bet him against Beza, I'm pretty sure. I bet Stoltzfus against him at pretty sizable dog odds. I bet Kopylov against him. I don't remember what I did with Dalcha, but I never bet on Dalcha, so I know I didn't bet on him. And I bet on Maximov in that one. I bet on Brendan Allen when they fought. So I'd say I have a pretty good read on Soriano. And this is like a weird fight. I like the move down to welterweight for him, but I also don't know how much to take from the Beza fight, because he was really dominant. He was getting the takedowns pretty easily, and then he was just letting the ground and pound go. He landed like 140 strikes on the ground, and they counted most of them as significant, which they don't often do. But it was kind of because Beza was just fighting like an idiot. Beza's a talented mixed martial artist, and he was just playing off his back. He was barely even trying to get back up. He was just trying to go for subs, and it's a losing game plan. So I don't know how much to take from that. Overall, like Soriano, he's a great wrestler. He's explosive, powerful. He definitely hits hard. And his striking is all right, but he's pretty hittable. I don't rate his striking super highly. And if he can't get the takedowns, he can struggle sometimes. And I think he might struggle here if he can't get the takedowns. With Medic, I like that he moved up to welterweight. It's funny because you have a guy who was at lightweight who came up to welterweight, and you have Soriano who's a middleweight and came down to welterweight. So technically they were like 2 weight classes apart before. But I do like the move up for Medic. I think it's a good move for him. It's worked out for him so far. He's a very tall guy. He filled out very easily. He's not lanky or thin. He's perfect pretty much for welterweight. And he's definitely the better striker. I think he's got a much wider arsenal on the feet. He's got a lot more tools, nice knees, nice kicks, nice elbows. He mixes it up really well. He's very violent. He's a bit hittable, which I don't love. And Soriano does hit pretty hard. And he can be taken down sometimes. His takedown defense is decent, and his get-ups are solid. He's pretty good at popping back up to his feet, but he can be taken down. If he can keep the standing, I think Medic is much better than Soriano standing. As long as he avoids the big power shots from Soriano, he should be fine. He probably could hurt Soriano, and I think he might knock out Soriano. My concern is if I lay the chalk on him at minus 200 or minus 180 or minus 190, whatever it's at right now, I'm worried that it's possible that Soriano could get the wrestling going and could get those takedowns and could just control him and land ground and pound and win. So I can't really lay the chalk. If it was closer, maybe, because I do think he's a much better striker, and I do think he's more likely to get a finish on the feet. But with the grappling, I'm a little hesitant. And also, Medic has never been to a decision at all. In 12 fights, he's never been to a decision. He made it to the third round with Semmelsberger and got the finish, but he doesn't have the highest output. I don't know how his cardio is going to hold up if he has to constantly stuff takedowns and defend them and defend them and defend them. So I like Medic to win, but I can't lay the chalk because I think Soriano has a viable path. I think he's a solid fighter in his own right, and I think he could get the takedown. So I'm going to pass here, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I was kind of thinking like maybe just a small play on like Soriano by decision, because I feel like if Soriano wins, it's going to be by a decision, grinding out Medic. You could also just play fight goes at plus 185. That's not bad either, but I'd be a little worried because Medic never been to the scorecards. Soriano can be hurt, can be knocked out. Stoltzfus hurt him on the feet. My guy Stoltzfus. So yeah, it's Medic for me to win, but I'm not going to bet anything on this fight. I don't think. Maybe I'll think about it a little bit more, but I doubt it. Let's see what we got going on. There will be blood, says Medic 2-3 knockout. Yeah, it's definitely in the cards. Champ saying I like Medic here. I don't think his takedown defense is as bad as Orolbai fight showed. I think he's Medic on the feet all day. Yeah, Orolbai is a really good wrestler, and even though he's a 155er now, he was fine at 172, and I don't put too much stock into that. But at the end of the day, Medic can be taken down, and Soriano's a pretty big physical guy who was at middleweight before, so I tend to feel like he probably might be able to get the takedowns. That's crazy. But Tapology is also, especially early, people on Tapology, they either wiki cap or they come in, they see who everybody else picked, and they just pick that and go with it because it probably works more often than not. They're just fluffing their Tapology records. But I pray that the books listen to Tapology because that would be so good. Let's see what else we got. Green King saying over 1.5 is minus 166. Minus 150 on Bet Online. It's not bad, actually. I like that. Thanks, Green King. That might be a play for me, actually, because Soriano's probably going to go for the takedowns. And, like, Medic is a good finisher, yeah, but, like, knocking out Tim Means in the first round doesn't mean a whole lot to me. Pretty sure the Orolbai fight went over or went close to over. That was the second round, I think. Semmelsberger made it to round 3. Morales, what round did he knock out Morales in? I don't remember. Yeah, Morales over 1.5 would have cashed too. Against Turner, no. Elon Cruz, like whatever. Whatever happened to Mikey Gonzalez? Is he still fighting? Not since 2023. But yeah, I like that, Green King. I might actually make that a play because I feel like Soriano's gonna wrestle early, and I feel like that's gonna drag it over the over 1.5 mark. And the line's coming down even more. I need to write that down because I have the memory of a goldfish. This is why I like live streams. I like talking with you guys. It's a lot more fun. And it helps me find spots sometimes. All right. Got that written down. Shout out to Green King. That's a good shout. My guy Jason in the chat. What's good? My brother. Thank you for tuning in. Raw Torque over with the dab emoji. Okay. I like it. Moving on. This is a great matchup. We've got Austin Bashi versus Christian Rodriguez. Bashi, he's going to be 13-0 undefeated. He's 23 years old, 5'6" with a 70-inch reach. Rodriguez, 11-2-0, 27. He's going to be 4 years older. He's going to be 1 inch taller, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. So this is a tough one for me because, like, on one hand, you have C-Rod. He's been the prospect killer. He beat Rosas Jr. as an underdog. He beat Cameron Simon as an underdog. He beat Dolgarian as the underdog. I had him there, got a little lucky. I understand why people felt like Dolgarian won. I kind of still gave it to Rodriguez on rewatch. I still give him 2-3. but I can understand. And like, I would not have been upset if Dulgarian got the win there. Would have made sense. And so here's what I'm thinking with that, right? So on one hand, the Dulgarian fight kind of makes me feel like Bashi should be okay, because in the Dulgarian fight, right? Dulgarian's taking him down pretty easily in the first round, especially. In the second round, too, it wasn't too hard for him to take him down. He controlled him decently well, but C-Rod is a great scrambler. He does a great job at getting back up, and that's partially why Dulgarian gassed so hard, is because he had to keep re-wrestling over and over and over and over again, but he was able to get him down. Now, on one hand, I don't know if Bashi's as physical as Dulgarian. Bashi's a little bit on the smaller side for featherweight, whereas Dulgarian's a pretty big physical dude for 145. But on the other, I think Bashi's cardio is better than Dulgarian's, because Dulgarian up until that point had never even left the first round. He was a first round finisher and he never even left it. So it kind of made sense for him to gas. Bashi's probably not going to gas. So he might not be as physical as C-Rod, but he's going to be relentless, and he's just going to keep going for it over and over again. He'll re-wrestle nonstop. He'll reshoot. So that's why I'm like kind of struggling with it. Because on one hand, I think Bashi could get him down. I think Bashi will struggle to control him, but he has the cardio to keep doing it. But on the other, he might not be physical enough to control him. And while his cardio is good, maybe he does slow down if he also has to keep re-wrestling and C-Rod keeps scrambling back up. And then on the feet, Bashi's a pretty good striker. You can see that it's like not his primary thing. Like, it's not what he started with. It's not his base. He's a grappler first. The striking is definitely a work in progress, and he's very young. He's only 23 years old. So it's going to develop, and it's getting better. And it's okay right now. He's probably competitive with C-Rod on the feet, but he struggles a little bit if you put him on the back foot. I definitely saw that in a few of his fights, even again in his Contender Series fight. When he was getting backed up, he was getting hit against Oscar on the regional scene. First of all, that's a great win on the regional scene. Oscar, he's very underrated. Never quite made it to the UFC. He almost did. He was scheduled to fight Cody Stamen, fell out of that fight. Really unfortunate, because I was hoping to see him in the UFC. But that was a good win for Bashi. But in that fight, when they were on the feet and Bashi wasn't taking him down, Oscar had a solid performance on the feet. He was able to land his shots. He was able to hit Bashi a little bit more than Bashi was hitting him. And it's because he was putting him on the back foot. I think that's why. C-Rod's a good striker. His output isn't the best, but it's also because people keep trying to grapple him like every single fight. I mean, JSP, Cameron Simon was trying to grapple him. Rosas Jr., Dulgarian, like they're all grappling him nonstop. I think that's why his output isn't that high, but I would like the output to be a little bit higher. But I do think he is the better striker. I do think he hits a little bit harder. And I think that if he can scramble up enough, he could win this fight. It's a winnable fight for C-Rod. It's a tough ask because Bashi's a very legit fighter. He's a very legit prospect, and he's going to be a menace as his career goes on. But right now, I could see a path for C-Rod. I'm considering the play. It's like part of me wants to just play Bashi decision and call it a day. It's like minus 130. It's going up because everybody's on the finish. Everybody thinks just because Arosa subbed him, now Bashi will. And I bet Arosa there. I bet C-Rod against Dulgarian. I bet Arosa against C-Rod because I felt like the number was too wide and Arosa's crafty and he could pull something off, and he did. And Bashi's very crafty with the jiu-jitsu. I'll give him that 100%. But he's taken lesser guys to decision, and C-Rod does a good job defending for the most part. So I don't feel like he's going to sub him. And I just think on the feet, C-Rod could outstrike him. So I'm all over the place in this fight. I think Bashi's probably going to win. I think that he probably gets it done. I think he probably gets it done by decision. But then it's tricky, right? If you play the decision prop minus 130, you lay a little bit of chalk, and then he comes out and gets a sub, it sucks. And then I don't really want to lay the chalk on him straight minus 300 when I think C-Rod has a viable path. And at the same time, I don't really want to put a half unit on C-Rod and then have Bashi just out grapple him for 3 rounds. So because of that, my gut's telling me I should pass. And as of now, I'm going to pass. If C-Rod hits like plus 300, then I'll put like a half unit on it and just call it, because it's already getting a bit too wide in my taste. I think C-Rod has a viable path. But long story short, I'll pick Bashi to win, and we can move on. Let's see what we got over here. Still talking about the Medic Soriano fight. Benino saying they're on to Medic 2-3. I assume he's talking about the bookies. There will be blood saying, I think Soriano said his contract is up if he doesn't win his last fight. So he's try to win this one. Yeah, I mean, he's probably going to try to win no matter what. But yeah, I definitely see what you're saying. I think Soriano's a live dog in that one. Oh, there's a lot more than I saw. Let's see what else. Raw Torque saying C-Rod, let's go. Yep. There will be blood saying Bashi sub. Champ saying, I feel like I'm on an island, but I like C-Rod. I get because people think Bashi was Nigerian. And this is a big step up. Yeah, I tend to agree. You're pretty much saying what I was saying. Like, I don't love the physicality for Bashi at 45. I think it might be a little bit of a tough ask, so we'll see. Hard not to take a shot at C-Rod plus 230. Yeah, and I think we'll probably get a better line too. I don't agree with this at all. I don't think he's back take or bust. He's a really good grappler. He does struggle with the control guys sometimes. I think I see what you're saying, but I don't think it has to be a back take, you know? Bashi will beat C-Rod. Pains me. Huge C-Rod fan. Decision gatekeeper killer. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, moving on. We've got Chris Curtis versus Roman Kopylov. Curtis 31-11-0. He's 37 years old, 5'10" with a 75-inch reach. Kopylov 13-3-0. He's 32. He's 5 years younger, 2 inches taller, and he's got the same reach. So I'll start this off with, if anybody knows Chris Curtis, can you ask him to unblock me? I never did anything. He blocked me when he was supposed to fight Imavov. If you guys know me, you know I will never tag a fighter. I will never call them out on Twitter or something. I will never do that. I've never done it, and I never will. And I certainly never tagged him in anything. I didn't even write a breakdown. I just posted an Imavov bet. You know how I used to put up my bets before I had my Discord? I used to put all my bets up on Twitter with a picture of the guy who I think will win. So I posted a picture of Imavov. I wrote that I bet him, how much I staked, and that was it. No breakdown. Didn't tag nobody. And then somebody's talking about Chris Curtis to me on Twitter, and I go to look at his page, and I'm blocked. And I was just like, dude, why? I don't even know what I did. So, yeah, I'd like to be unblocked because I like Chris Curtis a lot. So that would be great. But for this fight, I think Kopylov should win. I think that he's the younger, fresher guy. But my bigger thing is that, and he's very fast, and he's an elite striker. I like Kopylov a lot in general. But my main thing is I've never been a huge Curtis backer in terms of betting on him, just because I don't like low output counter strikers, and it works for him. It does work for him, but he tends to be low output unless he's fighting someone like Marc-Andre Barriault, who's just a punching bag. Then he gets his shots going. But overall, he's pretty low output. And he's usually just looking for that counter, constantly just looking for the counter. And he's nasty at finding it. He's an incredible boxer. He hits really hard. He's got great timing on his shots. He's solid defensively. And he's got elite takedown defense too. So overall, he's a really good fighter and a great underdog a lot of the time. And I will admit, I'm pretty tempted on him at plus 210 here. I'm considering it. I don't know if I'll get to it because I'm pretty high on Kopylov in general. But I can see a world here where Kopylov has a really good first round and then slows down a bit, and Chris just starts landing his counters because he's a great counter striker. Like I said, I just don't like backing him too much because he tends to just wait too much for me. I like guys who will lead exchanges and not just wait to counter. But at the same time, he's not minus 200. He's plus 200. You know, if we were talking about laying chalk on Chris Curtis, I would not do that. Never. But as an underdog, I might be able to do it. I'm thinking about it. But my thing is, I really like Kopylov. I think I've always been high on him. I've been backing him for a while now. People were pretty low on him for a point, and then he started to improve a lot. I believe it was because he got subbed by, what's his name? Carl Roberson. Did I get that one right? It's been a while. But I think that's why people used to be low on him. I was always pretty high on him. I thought he's a great fighter, and I thought he'd keep improving the grappling, and he has. I think that in this fight, I like his output more. I think he's much, much faster. He'll actually lead exchanges. He mixes up targets really nicely, and he's just a really good striker. He mixes up the kicks really good with the hands. The combinations are clean, straight down the pipe. And he can mix in takedowns sometimes, like he was wrestling against Cesar Almeida. And Chris Curtis, he does have really good takedown defense, but wouldn't be the first time that a striker took him down. Imavov took him down a bunch. He was the first one to take him down in the UFC. So, and it's something I always talk about, right? Like, how come Rodolfo Vieira couldn't take him down on 20 attempts against Chris Curtis, but Imavov was able to get him down when Vieira is a high-level grappler and Imavov is a striker? My theory, and I've always said this in all my videos, is I just feel like it's easier for somebody with good striking to get a takedown sometimes than it is for a better wrestler to get the takedown if they don't have good hands. Because if you have good hands, you can set it up. They don't know that you're necessarily going to go for a takedown. They have to worry about your hands. And then when they're worrying about that, then you can shoot. And that's why I think sometimes a guy like Imavov might have better success grappling than someone like Vieira, just because he can actually threaten with the hands and then go for the takedown. So I wouldn't be shocked if Kopylov landed one or two if he mixes it up with his combos. I think it's entirely possible. And overall, I do think Kopylov should win, but I can't lay that kind of chalk on him. And definitely not against a guy like Chris Curtis, who's durable, not likely to get knocked out, and will be there the entire fight. Will probably stuff the majority of the takedowns, has good cardio, and has a great counter game and good power. So it's probably dog or pass for me. I don't know that I'll get to anything. Probably nothing. But I lean towards dog or pass from a betting perspective, but Kopylov will be the pick. And now let's catch up with the chat. So MMA anomaly. I like Kopylov by finish here. Okay. Good fight. I agree with you, Benino. Should be a fun striking match. Benino saying he should have beat Kelvin. I don't know. I had Kelvin there, so I'm biased. Kopylov wins in a striking fight here. Super clean and good at keeping range. I agree with you. There will be blood. I think he's saying Chris by decision or KO. Okay. Could be a nice live bet opportunity. Yeah, that's for sure. It could be a good live betting spot because Roman Kopylov starts off really hot and then tapers off a little bit. And Chris Curtis kind of he's got great cardio, so you don't really expect him to slow down. So it might be a good idea, honestly, to live bet it. Let's see what else. Curtis is coming off of a surgery. That is worth mentioning, too. Thank you for bringing that up, Raw. Kopylov by points. Probably what happens, yeah. Surgery probably has something to do with the line. I agree. Champ saying this should be the co-main event. Definitely a better fight than the actual co-main event, that's for sure. I think Kopylov gets a head kick KO because Chris is backing out of range. Okay, I could see it. Well, let's move on. Next fight, we've got Abdulrazak Alhassan versus Cesar Almeida. Alhassan, he's 12-6-0. He's 39 years old, 5'10" with a 73-inch reach. Almeida 6-1-0. He's 36, so he's 3 years younger. Going to be 2 inches taller, and he's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage. I'm not really crazy about this fight from a betting perspective. Like, as a fan, it should be a lot of fun. Two guys who are strikers. Alhassan does have some grappling. Judo Thunder, his nickname. He does have some judo to him. I believe that's his background. And, he might be able to use it. He might be able to use it here. Like, he has wrestled before. Remember the Buckley fight where he was taking Buckley down in the third round? He could wrestle. And Almeida got out grappled by Kopylov, who we just spoke about, who is a striker. He did train, I think, in Dagestan or Russia for a while in his wrestling. So maybe that's what it is. But I wouldn't be shocked if Alhassan could take Cesar down. That's one of the reasons I'm not. Like, Cesar's a really good striker, but do I want to lay minus 275 on him when he can be taken down? He's very green in mixed martial arts, and he's also a guy who's kind of low volume. So I don't really want to lay the chalk on him. And then Alhassan, he hits really hard. He could maybe get those takedowns. He's a solid striker in his own right, but he's very, very hittable. He does slow down. He doesn't have the best cardio. And Cesar's very, very durable. So even though Alhassan is a knockout guy and he's gotten a lot of them on his record, I don't really see him knocking out Almeida. So this is one that I want to come back to later in the week. I like to take a break after I tape the first time, come back, tape a little bit deeper, refresh the mind a bit. So this is a spot that I want to come back and look at a little bit more. Like, maybe Almeida is a solid parlay piece. I lean towards no. just because a little bit more, a little low volume, and he can be taken down. But at the same time, like his get-ups are solid. His get-ups are pretty good. Hassan doesn't really push the wrestling that much. He usually just strikes. And Caesar's durable and the better striker. So I lean towards Caesar, but I don't know that I'm going to bet anything here. I highly doubt it. Let's see what we got. Benino saying live bet Almeida if Abdul gets takedowns in round 1. I mean, if he's getting takedowns in round 1, I don't know if you want to live bet it. I guess unless your angle is that he'll slow down from the grappling, which is a fair angle, maybe. It would depend like how much it dropped, you know? Like if Hassan was struggling a little on the feet and then gets a takedown and some control time and it's like pick him, then yeah, I'd probably bet Almeida then, but I'm not sure. This is Dogger Pass. I think Hassan wins. I beg of him to wrestle in the open because I really think he can get Almeida down like that. Yeah, I could definitely see it. I'm on Hassan here. This dude's been getting. He wanted to come back fast after the Brundage fight and 2 fights, I think. Yeah. A lot of you guys are on Hassan. I'm surprised. Yeah, I think he's a very live dog. I don't think I'm going to bet either guy, though. Next up, we've got Santiago Ponzinibbio versus Carlston Harris. Santiago is 29-8-0. He's 38 years old, 6 feet tall, with a 73-inch reach. Harris, 19-6-0. He's 37, so he's 1 year older, but they're both on the older side of things. He's 6 foot tall as well, and he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. So I liked the under 2.5 originally because both guys could be knocked out. Both guys are on the older side of things, closer to 40 than they are to 30, that's for sure. And Harris could probably get a sub, and Ponzi could possibly get a sub too. He's got low-key jiu-jitsu. So I like the under 2.5, but it kind of got cooked. Now it's like minus 130, and I don't really want to play it anymore. It's what I get for waiting for limits to open up. And the reason that I don't want to play minus 130 on it now and play it at shock is because I can also see them just stare at each other. Like I could see a low output affair. The Ponzi Salikov fight doesn't make me feel great about unders. Maybe it was the movement of Salikov, and Harris doesn't really have any footwork. He's very flat-footed. So it's possible that, you know, maybe Ponzinibbio will actually be able to get his striking going in this fight. But I'm just hesitant. I'm very hesitant to play the under now. So I think I'm just going to leave it alone. If I'm hesitant, there's probably a reason. Better just leave it. In terms of a side, I really don't know either. This fight's tough because I'm going to pick Harris to win. I think that's my pick. At plus money, he's probably the side for me just because I think he hits really hard. His striking's okay. Ponzi's a better striker, but his striking's not bad. He's good at range. He's a very long, lanky dude, and he's a great grappler. His wrestling's not bad. Ponzinibbio's got pretty good takedown defense, but I could see Harris getting a takedown or two, and he's a very opportunistic submission grappler. He's very slick on the ground. Harris sub definitely makes some sense to me. It's what's the line? Harris sub plus 500. I would have liked something a little bit. It opened plus 850. Would have liked that, but that got bet down immediately. Yeah, I mean, it's just a fight I'm not crazy about. On one hand, I could 100% see Ponzi winning a decision if he's not completely washed. He is the overall better striker. He's fought the much better competition. He's got overall good takedown defense, and Harris isn't the best wrestler in the world. So if Santiago can keep it on the feet, not get hurt with the long shots of Harris, because Harris does have some power, I can see Santiago outworking him and getting a decision here or knocking him out. But on the other hand, I feel like Harris can knock out Ponzi. I feel like Harris can sub Ponzi. And I feel like Harris could win a decision too. So I have to go with him. He's 2 years younger, not much, but I think overall, I think he's taken a lot less damage. That I can say pretty confidently. Santiago's struggled with injuries before. He's taken a ton of damage over his career. He's definitely on a decline. Harris probably also on a little bit of a decline, but I think it's hitting Santiago harder. So for a side, I like Harris to win. I'm not really dying to play him. If it gets wider and wider, maybe I'll get there. Right now, I'm not super interested, but I'm just not confident in this fight. I don't have a great read, so I'm going to try not to force anything. I would have played the under if it was still plus money, but that's gone. At this point, under 2.5 is priced almost the same as fight ends ITD. Under 2.5 is minus 125. Fight ends ITD is minus 130. So you might as well just play fight ends ITD and get that extra 2.5 minutes. But I think I'm just going to pass on this one. Going to try not to force anything. If they force my hand with the crazy Harris line, I'll do it. Otherwise, I'm going to leave it alone. Let's see what we got in the chat. Bonino saying, I like Harris finish only at Pick'em. That's not bad, but it's like, I think he can get finished too. I think Ponzi can knock him out also. Champ liking the Harris finish only. Green King saying Harris sub. Champ saying maybe fight ends by sub a sprinkle. Yeah, I've heard a few people on that one. And Green King saying, I like the plus 850. Yeah, unfortunately, that's gone. But all right, let's move on to our main event. Main event, we've got a rematch. We have Mackenzie Dern versus Amanda Ribas 2. Dern is 14-5-0. She's 31 years old, 5'4" with the 63-inch reach. Ribas on the other side, 13-5-0. She's 31 as well. She's going to be 1 inch shorter, and she's going to be at a 3-inch reach advantage. So the first thing I want to say, let me double check what the line is now. But please, for the love of God, do not lay minus 200 on Dern plus 5.5. Like, it's just not worth it. This is the number one lesson that I learned in 2023 that I took with me into 2024 and that I think worked for me in 2024. Because in 2023, I was loving the spreads. It was a relatively new thing. Not many people were even talking about it. And I was pretty good at it. But the issue was you most of the time with the spread, you're laying chalk more often than not. And it takes one bad judge. And with the way our judging is now, worse than it's ever been, that's the last thing you need. Because say you, like, for example, I took the spread on Stephanie Egger against Luana, right? And she won, clearly one round. She won one round. Luana won 2. It was a clear as day, 29-28. Should have cashed the bet. And then one judge gave it 30-27 for no good reason. And that's it. And I lost a bet. And that's all it takes for you to lose a chalky spread. And it's not worth it at all. At this point, I only ever play spreads if they're plus money. I'll never play a spread if it's chalk because you just can't trust the judges. And it's not worth it. So let me check what Dern is at now. Because I know that it opened. The spread was plus 5.5. It was like minus 260, which is just crazy. It's crazy. Why would you ever do that? So right now, Dern is minus... So plus 5.5 is minus 210. And then Ribas minus 5.5 is plus 170. So first of all, I just told you why it's not good to bet chalky spreads. The other thing is Ribas 30-27 her the first time. Not saying that's how it's going to go this time. Rematches are almost never the same. And this is a 5-rounder now. So not saying that's going to happen 100%. But just worth thinking about if you're going to go and lay over 2 units to win one on a Dern spread when it'll take one bad judge or a replication of the first fight for you to lose your bet. You can lose it 2 ways there. So I just don't think it's worth it. I put a unit on Ribas minus 5.5 at plus 180. It's plus 170 now. I haven't tracked it yet because it hasn't opened up on other books. Once it opens up on domestics, it opens up on DraftKings, the limits open up. If it's still plus 170, I'll track that because I do like that. Because for all the reasons I just told you, I think this line is too wide. I think it's entirely possible that Ribas wins 4 out of 5 rounds or she wins 5 out of 5 rounds. I think that's entirely possible. And yeah, because of that, I like that spot, plus 170. It's just too wide. But overall, I do like Ribas to win this fight. I think that some things have changed. Both fighters have improved. You know, Dern's wrestling has gotten a little bit better than it was in the first fight. I think Dern's striking has gotten a little bit better than it was in the first fight. And Dern probably hits a little bit harder than Ribas. It doesn't really hit too hard at all. But Ribas is still going to have much better output. Ribas is still the better striker in my books. She's got good takedown defense, and I don't really see Dern taking her down at a high clip. If anything, I think Ribas can get takedowns. And Dern is really good on the ground. She's an elite grappler. She's got elite jiu-jitsu, but Ribas is also a really good grappler. And I don't think that Dern is going to be able to submit her. So even though rematches normally don't go the same way the first time, prime example that just happened, Cyril Gane versus Volkov, right? First fight, Gane handles him easily. Second fight, Volkov cooks him and gets robbed. Thank God for me, because I had Gane there, but Volkov got robbed. So Usually rematches don't go the same, but overall, I still think Ribas is going to win. I think that the cardio is a big thing as well. I like her cardio much better in a 5-rounder. I think she's much more likely to pick up the later rounds than Dern. I think that she can stuff the takedowns, like I said, and I think she can outstrike Dern still. So for me, it's Ribas. I'm actually considering laying the chalk. I don't know if I'm going to do it or not. I don't like laying the chalk in WMMA. I don't like laying chalk, period, for the most part. But sometimes I'll be a chalk donkey. Sometimes. And yeah, we'll see. I'm thinking about it. I'm going to see what happens with the line movement. I don't really want to bet Dern here. I think that Dern, she's improved a lot and she's a great fighter. And I'm happy to bet her in a lot of spots. Pretty sure I bet her against Loopy, but I don't really want to bet her against Ribas here. So it's Ribas or pass for me. I think the spread on Ribas, the minus 5.5 at plus 170, I think that's a solid play as well. And so far, that's all I have. I have that, but it's untracked until it opens up more on books, other books, and the limits open up. Let's see what we got in the chat. Champ agreeing with me on the minus 5.5 Ribas spread. He too got burned on the plus 3.5 there with Cheeto and Figgy. Telling you, man, all it takes is one bad judge, and we have many bad judges these days. So it's a risky thing to lay chalk on spreads. Champ saying, I think Ribas wins again. I like the pressure she brings. Having a close fight with Rose recently in a 5-rounder. I think says more good than bad. Thought Loopy beat Dern the last time out, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, I had Dern against Loopy, so I'm not going to agree with you. But overall, I agree with your assessment. I think Ribas should win. And that's it, guys. That's UFC Vegas 101. That is 14 fights that we just broke down in just under an hour and a half. We got 62 of you in the chat live. Thank you guys all for tuning in. I appreciate you very much. Missed you guys this past month. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel. If you're on Twitter, like it, comment, retweet. No one ever does that on Twitter. Be the first one. That'll be awesome. And yeah, I'm going to be on Jewish Better Show on Thursday. I'm going to be doing my shorts probably tomorrow on Wednesday. If you don't know what my shorts are, if you don't like the long form videos, you tend to skip around. I do 1-minute breakdowns or less for every single fight on the card every single week. And I will be doing that tomorrow. So keep that in mind. That'll be out tomorrow. And then I'll be dropping a few videos this week as well. If you've been following me, you know, recently I started doing more like MMA news focused videos, talking about that kind of stuff, or recently announced matchups. I have a few coming up that I'm going to be releasing this week. So make sure to keep an eye out for those. And let me run through my picks one more time. I'll give you my 2 bets that I have for now, and we can get out of here. So picks. We're going with Aliev, Kline, Gadzhiyasulov, Kareckaite, Smith, Moises, Tulio, Johnson, Medic, Bashi, Kopylov, Almeida, Harris, and Ribas. So I'm picking one underdog to win. That's either going to go great for me or terrible. We'll see what happens. And then in terms of the bets, I just have the 2 parlays right now, and Aliev is on both of them. I have Aliev Gadzhiyasulov, came out to minus 129, played it to win 1 unit. And I have Aliev and Kareckaite. I need to learn how to pronounce it. Minus 144 to win 1 unit. And my guy Tyler pulling up late. Better late than never, brother. Make sure you guys are checking out Tyler. He's the man. If you don't already know him, we co-host every single pay-per-view panel, and he has a whiteboard. So make sure to check him out. And thank you guys for tuning in. I'll catch you guys next time.